I am Andrew.
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get into
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
And welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday here for Tea Time Tuesday with Fantasy Sports Corporation. I am Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard, bringing you in for Divots and Pivots, joined as always by Bud Copeland, and we are going to be breaking down the U.S. Open, the Wyndham Clark win, and everything that is Tom Watson's mental breakdown in his letter to the PGA, or should I say specifically his open letter to Jay Moynihan. So before we get into all of that, Bud, welcome into another fantastic Tuesday night coming off a major. How are you?
Phenomenal. We're coming off a major. We're rolling into a major. It's the KPMG PGA Women's Championship. And all eyes are going to be on Baltusrol and Rose Zhang coming after, there's been a gap in the LPGA play. If you forget, Rose Zhang went NCAA back-to-back, first PGA Tour start, win, and now we're coming into her first major. All eyes are going to be on her. Obviously, Nelly Korda's a perennial favorite. Jin Young Ko is. And
Korda's been active in social media this week. She's been making the rounds of some comments getting thrown out there this week.
Dude, she's going to be very active. She's got a lot of money coming in from Nike and TaylorMade now. She's at that level. But they're at Baltusrol, and it brings me back to Cutter, our boy. From a couple weeks ago, he's a looper out at Pebble Beach, and the women's U.S. Open is going to be at Pebble Beach. And actually, I started looking back, and it's only been in the last couple of years, but it's about damn time. We're starting to see some of these women's majors at these rotating sites, with the PGA and the U.S. Open. Fun fact too, the three, what's the other one? It used to be the Dinah Shore. Now it's the Chevron or whatever the fuck they call it. But the three women's majors that are played in the States, not recognized by the Ladies European Tour. It's not like the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour where they both recognize the opposing. Not like that at all. I mean, there's not too much of I guess there's only one major that's over that we recognize over there, so it's not the same. But found that interesting because you look at some of the future sites. We got Pebble, Erin Hills is for the U.S. Open. I mean, wait, real quick, what were we just at? PGA Frisco, Congressional, PGA Frisco. That's what the PGA Women's got coming up. And then we got Pebble this year for U.S. Women's Open. Riv is coming up, Riviera. They're going to be at Oakmont, Pinehurst #2.
Yeah, those are big name courses.
They're coming to LA Country Club in 2033 or 2032, whatever the hell it is. So it's good to see this game expanding in that way. So off a major.
Talk about real growing of the game of golf, right? Come on.
Real growing of the game of golf, not just lining the pockets of the fat corporate entities that are. So do we just go straight into Tom Watson?
Let's start with Tom Watson, then we'll circle into the U.S. Open recap, and then we'll get into our travelers from there. I think that makes sense because I think we both feel well. Maybe me more strongly than you on the Tom Watson letter. But because it seems like you're as a lifelong fan of the history, you might be a little torn on it.
I've been marinating in it for a couple of hours, right? And my initial reaction was, it's one of those scenarios. Anytime you lead with all due respect, whatever comes after that,
or the bless your soul.
It's bless your heart. Jesus,
Sorry.
That's why we say it about you people.
Oh, you people.
All due respect to Tom Watson. The guy does have 5 Open championships. All right. Varden's the only one who's got more than that with 6. He's got 5 of these things, and he's got 3 senior British Open. So he knows of what he speaks, and he's earned his right to say it. That said, all due respect, I don't have to like what he said, and I don't give a shit. Here's my problem with it. Why the selective morality, and why do we have to be outraged by things? And these demanding of answers and information. I don't get it. I just don't care. I think that's the point. I keep going back to they can feel how they want to feel. This is all locker room shit. The general fan, I think, is over it. The people still think that live and PGA are merging. What they're going to do is they're going to wake up in 2 years. These live players are going to be back. We're going to have maybe like a fifth major or something like that. I don't know. There might be some Abu Dhabi, whatever. And that, okay, it is. And if you don't want to play in it, you want to opt out, then those are the consequences. This is how the game rolls. I don't see it really affecting too much. Like, he put this letter out there, and I think it's just because he felt like he had to. I mean, maybe he was like, nobody else is saying anything, I'm going to do it, speak for this generation of golfer. I just don't care. Like, I saw it and at first I got upset. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? I sent it to you and I'm like, here we go. This is going to, and then I got past it real quick, and I'm looking back at the letter and I'm like, okay, he said his piece.
And in my typical fashion, I don't get past it because it pisses me off. No, but to your point about the morale, like the selective morality, he even called him, like, basically called himself out or contradicted himself in his own letter, in that he was like, as he's saying, you need to think about where this money is coming from. He then, in like the very next sentence, says, "Now I do understand that other American businesses have ties to the PIF and that we use in our everyday brands." I'm like, you're contradicting yourself. That yes, it already exists. Exactly. Sports don't have a different morality. If anything, sports have a less. It's been proven sports have a lower morality. Okay,
let's real quick. Let's paint with a broad stroke and a big brush, and that way we can use generalizations. What you're saying is we're willing to lower our moral objections for good entertainment and to be wowed by the athletes. And it's kind of like Bobby Bowden in I think it was 1999, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. One of those details is off, but Sebastian Janikowski is their kicker.
I was going to blame you, so it's all good.
It was right at the turn of the century, and I think it was the 99 Knowles that went wire to wire with Chris Winkie and that whole crew, but I could be wrong. Winkie. But I do remember that Chris Winkie, he was like 28 years old. I haven't
heard that name in a long time.
Right? There's a throwback. But Bobby Bowden's getting interviewed because a bunch of his players were out past curfew. It's New Orleans, and he suspended a bunch of them for the bowl game, and Sebastian Janikowski was not touched. And one of the reporters kind of basically said, it would appear that you're giving favorable treatment to the better players who, can help your chances of winning. And he just kind of said, it would appear like that now, wouldn't it? And then he followed it with a little subtle bless your heart, because nobody likes to see how the sausage is made. And I think that's what we're seeing here is like, my whole thing is, as long as the majors are going to stay the majors, which they will. Yeah. Then and some of this money will either trickle in or it won't. I mean, who I don't care. Are you gonna? I still want to see world-class locations. I want to see Augusta in spring, and I want to see golf's longest day lead to some of its biggest moments, as we just saw this past weekend. And that's not going to change too much. So the professional game, I think it's almost like politics. And reality. It's kind of like this. That's the politics of the game. And we understand that there's a lot of money. There's just so much fucking money to be made out there now that people are willing to just kind of swallow this or look the other way. Not everybody.
See, I got some expanding thoughts on a few of the things you just mentioned, but they're going to tie in more to the U.S. Open talk after we get done with Tom Watson and his letter here. So we'll circle back to that for sure. Because I have some questions for you. I'll pose.
And I mean, he didn't say anything objectionable. I think I have an issue I'm just saying, like, I have an issue with the tone, the kind of entitled, and I'd led with, he's got five opens. And, I think he won the Masters a couple times or whatever. I mean, he's up there. So. There's an argument for him on Mount Rushmore of golf, especially for the 20th century. But,
but you nailed. So you hit two great points there. He did not say anything crazy objective, but it was all the tone, because that's my biggest issue with it, is that, and I told you this in text earlier. I said it felt like the most predictable, perfect posturing thing that somebody who.
Oh, what did I say? Is he running for Senate?
Yeah, you said that he's running for Senate.
He's going to run for Senate.
It felt like a campaign, because So this is what it felt like. It felt like somebody behind the scenes was looking for anybody to make some sort of statement, and they're saying, and they probably went around to a few people. They got to Tom and said, Tom, can you just put something out there? And he just had to appease multiple, I guess, sides of the issue here, because that's what it felt like. He it was very predictable. The first paragraph, he comes out, he praises Jay Moynihan. He first wishes him well. Hope he gets
that's
through
the all due respect paragraph.
Exactly, the all due respect paragraph. So he says, I understand how hard your job is. I get that. And then the second paragraph is, with that said, like that's the So I mean no disrespect when I say that. That's when that comes in.
Well, he's a class act. He's Tom fucking Watson.
So that stuff didn't surprise me. That's what I'm saying. It was very predictable. What got me off track with it was, he literally was just trying to appease everyone, it seemed. He wasn't saying, like you said, anything too objective to where he would have pissed one side off. He didn't make a statement at all. His statements were all vague, like sections of 3 questions in a row where he was just making.
Did you just mute yourself? It's just me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go, Verizon. All right, look, I've got the letter right here in front of me, and I think when I knew I was getting soft is when I started going down the road of, oh, you have every right to ask these questions, and like you've ignored the moral. Nobody's ignored the moral question.
Yeah. Nobody has. It's been the main topic of conversation with all of this. The moral question has been the topic, and people are getting pissed that it's the topic. That's the thing. You can't reverse now. People are sick of the moral ground being the topic here.
When she doesn't call back for the 6th day in a row, you got your answer. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly. Yeah.
So just saying, like, who does he want an apology from? Jay's not apologizing to anybody. This was a lot of business. And again, we point out that Jay winked at this all got started without me knowing, which could just be to give him that little whisker of credibility with some of the players and some of the player leadership. Also, I don't think anybody's signed any checks over yet. You know, they said we have like a framework for a deal, you know, what this entity is going to look like, and how basically I think it's going to be a slush fund for player comp. I was
just saying that's what I was saying.
I think that's all it's weeks
ago when this first happened. This is just a way for them to basically have a profit sharing. It's all this is. It's the NFL. It's the way NFL has profit sharing for franchises, except in this case, the franchises are the players. It's just going to be a way for everybody to get a split of this money. And in the end, just the way laundering money works, in the end, dirty money's mixed with clean money, and nobody knows the fucking difference.
So that leads me to my next point, is because when this first happened, I was like, in Congress gets off their keister and starts coming down here, you know, waving their shit around, which I stand by that. Like,
sure, yeah, that is very hypocritical.
Like, come on,
and now getting involved. But that's another instance of the money talking.
But I do see
somebody
the
with
PGA
money
Tour
in the PGA.
I do see the PGA Tour might need to surrender their nonprofit status once this whole thing goes down, because I think it's just going to be too much money that's going to be commingling in reality versus paper reality. When you say like, oh, no, we're going to, you know, you're at the same party, but we're going to pay for the DJ out of this checkbook over here, and we're going to pay the caterer from this. It's like, what are we even doing here, folks? So I think they will have to surrender that. But that doesn't take away from the PGA Tour and the sheer fuck ton of money they do raise for philanthropy and charity. Like this week's Travelers. We'll get into that in a little bit here.
Yes, we will.
So, Tom, you're fine. You know, I feel bad for although I don't feel bad for the politician joke. It did read like he was going to. I just looked it up. He's 70. Is it 73 or 76? Either way, he's not running for office.
No, he's not. But
I could see
my biggest problem with Tom's letter here was how complete, like I've alluded to before I got cut off because my damn mic became unplugged for a quick second.
I'm glad you at least acknowledged it was the mic and it wasn't.
It was the mic.
Me cutting you off.
Because my headphones went out too. My headphones were plugged into my mic. But anyways,
science.
Just Tom Watson. He literally, I said to you earlier over text that he literally was. He was hitting all the hot button issues so that he could get the attention and appease everybody that would be reading it, you know, because he brought up 9/11 and he had a whole paragraph about how he supports the families of victims of 9/11 and like he mixed that in there, which felt so out of place for the rest of the article.
Okay, now you're reminding me why I fucking hated it, because then he signed off with some shit about you know,
because then he says
how I wasn't in the eye and myself in the mirror, and it's like.
Well, and then he had the line in here where he says, while I wasn't in the player meeting on Tuesday, June 6th, and then in parentheses, ironically, on the anniversary of D-Day. Like,
it is, you know, that didn't bother me because that is ironic.
But is it, like, to compare what was happening in the PGA to D-Day, like, come the fuck on. Like this, like I don't know. It just irks me.
Ironic, and it's not like analogous or something like that. It's
Yeah, I
ironic.
guess,
It's like, holy shit, big events seem to happen on this day, you know.
But you know why? Like the reason that these
I get it.
They put it in there to get a rise, and they got it out of me. Just the wrong.
They got it out of me too. I mean, they got it out of me too. So we're not on the inside, admittedly, right? Like this is one of those scenarios where the players chirp the media because we're the quote unquote, if you're listening to this, quote unquote media. But the people who, like, you're not inside the locker room, you don't know what it's like, this, that, and the other. You're right. I have no idea. I don't.
Yeah.
The difference is I'm not there yet. Maybe one day my life turns into a reality TV show or I get some opportunity where I'm on display for money, and then I don't like how it feels on the other side. But as a consumer, I'm not consuming them and their stories so much as I am consuming the game and the competition, which leads us to this weekend's US Open, because the storylines were ripe for the picking from Sunday morning. I mean, it started off, I'm not going to get into the details. I want you to go first. What were your reactions? Because there's a lot been floating out there, and I can't wait to disagree with you.
So I know. So what was out there was that in round one and some of round two, but mostly in round one, it was way too easy for U.S. Open standards. That's what was out there in the public media, and I understand that when you just compare it to flatline scores of U.S. Open past results, like I get it. It looked like an outlier. It really did. But the fact that we had guys on the first day shoot 8 under, and then the winning score was 11 under or 10 under. Like the fact that it then balanced out over the next 3 days, I don't care about round one at that point. Like the U.S. Open still became the U.S. Open, and what I loved about LA Country Club caught so much shit. What I loved about it was its versatility. The fact that they could have a par 3 play 159 one day, 81 the next, and then 139, like that's the type of, I'm sorry, but a lot of these golfers, a lot of the golfers weren't a fan of it, but I bet you a big part of them were a fan of it because it makes them play different. It makes them think about their shots. It's just a different aspect they're not going to get in another tournament. So I loved it.
Oh, I fucking loved every minute of it. And the golfers who are saying not my flavor, I understand. They're probably like Brooksy. He's talking about like from just a straight up like business standpoint. He's like, shit, this golf course doesn't suit my game. Not really a big fan of it. I mean, he still finished, I think even or one. He was hovering right around par. To your point,
what was great about that day that par 3 play? What was that? Was that the 15th or the 7th? I forget which hole it was, but
15th.
The 15th. That day that it played only like 81, 89 yards, whatever it was, the guys were still 3-putting that thing because of the way the distance was off, but the way they placed the position, the hole, like it was still a difficult shot that these guys had to play with their wedges, and a lot of guys 3-putted and still fucked it up. That's great golf, if you ask me. I'm
going to do my best Brandel Chambly. No, I got so basically, actually, the analogy I was going to make is this was a 4-day kind of orchestra, and there was different pieces and movements, and it was almost like they played us because they did, they can't control the weather, right? The weather does have its say, but even the weather seemed to cooperate because it was cool and kind of score worthy day one. We got a couple record numbers out there, which I thought was fun. And we got to be chirping, this isn't a U.S. Open setup. It was not a traditional U.S. Open setup. We got a traditional U.S. Open, though, because as the weekend went on, the pin placements change. It's almost like it's designed that way, right? It's almost like Gil Hans,
a golf course was thought out.
Right, brought out the best in this Thomas design. And it was hard. I mean, a lot of the players were saying, if you hit a good shot, you hit it, where it's supposed to be, et cetera, you will get rewarded and you can score. Some of the greens were immaculate, and they got a little
beautiful and well kept. Like, bravo.
And I can't wait for them to come back. There's the chirping about it being the corporate open because of the number of on-site passes. Here's my stance on that.
There was a lot that played into that.
Well, I mean, they're allocate. Well, how they want to allocate their corporate suites and the moneymakers, and how many they can allow on the grounds versus want to, and the traffic and et cetera.
Exactly. Yeah.
that's not what the U.S. Open's for. How many millions of people watched on TV and that ad revenue?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we got. Is we got a world-class, taste with the eyes, because it was fun to
100%.
watch and it was versatile. That actually had balance written down here, because like you were saying, there were some just beefy holes. And then the ones that I thought were going to be overwhelmingly difficult, those 7 and 11, I mean, they were hard, they were long, but I mean, it seemed to me if the guys were just able to get it, on that apron, it would feed right in, and it worked out for them.
Once again, if they played a smart golf shot, that's the thing. This course, what it did was it rewarded smart golf. It kind of took the aspect of, if you want to call it modern golf, where it's just grip it and rip it, power it through, and get closer than everyone else. Like, it kind of took that away in the sense of that
you had to play.
You had to play a smart shot, no matter how far your shot was going to be. So like that's what I appreciate about this course, because it really, I don't know, like balance. You said it. Balance is a great word. It balanced the field out, and we saw that with the leaderboard on the final day between having Scheffler, Rory, Ricky, even Dustin Johnson up there, and then to have Wyndham Clark come out on top. People hate on that. People hate that. Like, I've been hearing a lot this week after in the aftermath of it, saying that this is the problem with modern golf right now, is that the stars don't win. I got no issue with Wyndham Clark winning, and I have no issue with the fact that Fowler was there and just missed it again. Like, I have no issue that Rory was there and just missed it, and that Wyndham Clark won. No issue at all. I don't care if the stars win. You need stars to be at the top of the leaderboard to make it an enticing product, but you do not need them to win. I think that's been proven with golf at this point.
And Wyndham Clark could actually be a star. We saw Scotty Scheffler rip off wins, early on when he got going. Tony Finau kind of got hot there for a minute. These guys can catch lightning in a bottle, and Wyndham Clark, I mean, is he the next Webb Simpson? Webb Simpson won. Was it a U.S. Open? I don't even remember. Might have been PGA. I can't remember.
Was it a U.S. Open or PGA?
Whatever. So he wins a major, and I mean, Jason Duffner won a PGA. So there are guys
who fucking did.
What they did to him. So
remember, guys, Rocco Mediate was in a playoff with Tiger at a major. I mean,
and he wore red and black on Sunday, on Monday, which was great.
Yeah.
But Wyndham Clark was the one of the 3 names in the top 20 that's not a household brand in golf. Everybody else was up there. And so the course did deliver a U.S. Open finish where only 17 guys were under par. I think 19 were even par or better out of 156. That's a pretty good test of golf. I do understand again where some of the players are saying not my flavor, not my favorite course.
Which is fine. That's
I'm not
their
too thrilled.
Prerogative.
That's fine, and that's what. And as as good media people, that's what you find. You find
in a field of like 150 guys. Guess what? Not everyone's going to like the course.
It was it was a gorgeous, and I also do understand the criticism around not having bigger crowds or having more of the quote unquote general population out there on the rope lines, getting big ovations and everything like that.
Sure.
I understand the criticism because it's all, more people is always better. We tune in for record breaking crowds and the big roars, but I would much prefer more variety and diversity in the courses that we see in the coming years than sacrifice it for, what's the tried and true. If there's a gorgeous course that's cut through, a wooded area, and shit, let's figure it out. If only 5,000 people can be on the grounds, whatever, because how accessible the game has become through digital media means that we have the endless opportunities. And I meant it when I said it this morning on This Buds For You that, go follow me at This Buds For You. 4 is with a E because I don't want to get sued. And this is a golf show. So go follow me on Instagram. But this morning when I said it, USGA and PGA, you look ahead and they do a pretty good job. I forget how much we come out to Pebble and stuff like that. But I want West Coast majors every year for the rest of
the
existence.
Time frame was perfect in my opinion.
And I get what Wyndham Clark was bitching about, how it got dark there at the end. Okay, you were the last guy on the golf course, and it got a little darker a little earlier than they thought because I guess the marine layer was coming in earlier. The number of times I heard marine layer,
I know.
I wanted to rip my fucking eyes off. Speaking of people who pissed me off this weekend, Paul Azinger, not one of them. I thought he got shit on inappropriately by a lot of people. I understand that, that he might have missed some calls, but okay, whatever. I just don't understand why people want to they just want to chirp, and it bugs me sometimes.
Well, that's just the way it is. The world is now.
That's just the way it is.
Just bitching is just bitching about having something to bitch about is pretty much what it is nowadays. It's just,
and we're gonna have to make up something to bitch about for another month because we're literally 1 month out from, I think, where are we? Royal Liverpool? Yeah, Royal Liverpool. Yeah. That old chestnut for the Open. Listen, if it's not at St. Andrews, I don't think 50% of the people tune in. But Royal Liverpool, say that 10 times fast. That's in a month. In between, we got the Midwest Swing with the John Deere and the Rocket Mortgage in Illinois and Michigan, respectively. But first, New England's finest. We finally get a golf tournament.
And I saw a great comment from John Rahm today, because I get the sense that this course is setting up to be quite difficult this week. Because John Rahm had an interesting quote out there that, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't have it directly in front of me, but basically he said, winning a tournament with an over par score would be thrilling to him. Like,
I saw
that he would find that thrilling.
Well, I mean,
so it would be, because that's a real testament. That's what I'm sorry, but those types of tournaments where it ends like somewhere right around like 1 under, even 1 over for the winner, if that happens, like we've seen it happen a handful of times. It happened a few years ago at I forget the course it was at, but I remember I think it was a U.S. Open. That it was.
Oh, there's definitely been opens that the U.S. Open that has finished over par.
But because it's separate. I'm sorry, I hate to use this phrase. I hate this phrase, but it separates the men from the boys. Like, you really see the cream of the crop, or whatever you want to say.
We're canceled. No, but so it's first of all, let's pause. We're talking about the Travelers. Yep. This is one of those. This is a sneaky elevated event. When I was scrolling purses, and I was like, 20 million.
The last few years, this tournament has gained traction, even before the elevated events. This tournament has become a thing.
Oh, for sure. And actually, one of the philanthropies. So every PGA Tour tournament, and that's okay. So we're at the Travelers, TPC River Highlands here in New England and Connecticut, 6,800 yards. I mean, 6,850. I think they could probably stretch it to 7 with some of the tee placements if they want to. If they really wanted to lengthen it out, I bet.
Already sounds like a New England course.
It fucking does. Short, angular, with they got bent fairways, bent greens. It's going to have bluegrass, fescue.
Does this course have a double dog leg too? Does it have a par 5 that dog leg right and the dog leg left back to the green? I feel like I saw that. I saw that. Either way, I might be wrong. Ignore me.
Opened in 1928, but in 1982, Mr. Pete Dye got his hands on it, and he gave it a once over. And then in 1989, Mr. Bobby Weed decided to do another makeover. Now, Bobby Weed, real quick for the folks keeping score at home, he's one of the course architects that you may not have heard of, but you've heard of the courses or that he's had his hands in. For example, he's Mr. TPC, so to speak, outside of Pete Dye, I guess, because TPC Las Vegas, TPC Sawgrass, the Valley course, Stadium course is the Players. That's the Island Green. There's another 18 at that facility called the Valley course, which itself has hosted a bunch of like USAMs and that level of tournament. TPC Mito, which is in Japan. I didn't know TPC Network, of course.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that either, actually.
Mito or Mito, Mito. I don't know. TPC Summerlin and TPC Tampa Bay. Those are all the TPCs Bobby Weed has done. He also did Grove 23. So I guess if Jordan trusts him to do his course,
I was going to say, yeah.
And then he also did renovations at Medalist. The Medalist Golf Club is where Justin Thomas, Tiger, all those guys play down in South Florida there, and Grove. But the Medalist is where a ton of them play, and the Bears Club. And then he also did Ponte Vedra Club and Inn. So Ponte Vedra is the town where TPC Sawgrass is, and the Ponte Vedra Club and Inn predates Sawgrass or TPC by like 60 years. Whoa. But they had world-class golf courses, and they still do. And he did Lagoon and Ocean course. There's your Bobby Weed trivia for the week.
Between Ponte Verde and Drooper, like a lot of golfers.
Ponte Vedra, come on.
Vedra. But a lot of the golfers a lot of them live down there too, and those are the two towns that, at least in Florida aspects, go like it's like the two golf hubs. Yeah, it's not exactly. It's not a secret, but it's like, so the fact that he's had his hand in those areas where these guys like to play to practice, to warm up, to have fun, to let loose, whatever. Like those are all high attributes for him.
So speaking of what Rahm said, obviously, like you pointed out, he's given this course its due and kind of wink, wink, nod, nod. This thing sets up if they, if the weather, holds and everything like that, because nothing worse than if they get a little rainstorm and then they get to go ball in hand out of nowhere.
It's El Nino season up here, though, so you never know.
Fucking El Nino season.
And actually, I don't know what it's going to be down in Connecticut, but I know in Boston it's going to be like scattered rain and thunderstorms all weekend.
It's going to be scattered rain and thunderstorms for the next 3 months. But
yes,
TBC River Highlands, it is going to be a test, and it's going to be, ball strikers course. It's going to be, again, putting is going to be something to focus on. But before we go any further, the philanthropy.
Yes, here's with the philanthropy, and then we'll hear from Underdog before we get into our stats.
So PGA Tour gets a lot of shit because they have a nonprofit status. One of the main reasons they have a nonprofit status, it's not the reason somebody's going to at me and be like, well, legally speaking, just shut your mouth. But one of the things that they kind of lean on is the fact that they run these tournaments, but they have partners. Every tournament has a local partner that actually puts on the tournament, and it's usually a nonprofit or a charity themselves. So whether it's an actual nonprofit running the tournament, or there's some sort of foundation, or there's a private entity that puts the tournament on, there is a charity that everything, kind of gets generated, gets money from. And this is where, your pro-am money goes, and birdie challenges, and it could be a sponsor. And there's a lot of times there's multiple. It's not like there's just one, every single time. But, a lot of times you'll hear about the Boys and Girls Club of Houston being, the benefactor. But this week, it's the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. And so we got 31 minutes in before our first, I think it's the first camp reference in like 91 minutes of the show. That's
I was going to say, actually, because you did not make one last week.
It's a US Open week, man. We had to
proud of
table
you,
it.
man.
But the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, and I think I've talked about it on the show before, was started by Paul Newman back in the late 80s. He bought some land in Ashford, Connecticut, like 300 acres. It's gorgeous down there. And he wanted a camp for terminally ill children, or basically kids going through some serious illness and, could be life-threatening or not. But he wanted them to have a place to, quote unquote, raise a little hell and be normal for a change in a world, and when their world all of a sudden is not normal. So this summer camp is built down there, and the Hole in the Wall Gang is a wink and a nod to his Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That was the name of the gang there in that movie. And the whole thing is kind of themed around that. So, the program areas look like an old Western, town that actually burnt down a couple of years ago. They had a fundraiser to get it back up and running. Some of the paraphernalia from when Paul Newman drove in the 24-hour of Le Mans is hanging up on the walls down there. It's some pretty cool shit. But anyway, that's the camp. And basically the thing behind it is that it's a hospital too. Like, all the cabins are built with anything you would need for these kids who are going through whatever condition. World-class doctors give up or donate their, PTO, and they go there to work for a week. They volunteer to be like an on-site doctor, and they've got some great facilities for them to like bring their families along. It's a gorgeous place, but Paul Newman got it started in the late 80s. And if you ever buy Newman's own dressing, or
all the time.
Yeah, and like the pink lemonade, and they have a pomegranate lemonade that I'm addicted to.
I got a strawberry lemonade in my fridge right now, actually.
The proceeds from that for Newman's Foundation, all that goes to the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp and the other camps that are in the Serious Fun network of camps. So there you go. That's just one, though. That's one example. I mean, every single one of these tournaments does that. I don't know if the majors have philanthropies. I'm sure they do. I'm sure whatever like location they're in, they find
they have to have some sort of long-standing local, like Augusta for some reason. I'm sure they have some sort of long-standing local charity. Something like that.
And it's not even just charity. So we talk about philanthropy. Augusta National recently just signed a partnership. They called up the local muni, and they were like, hey, we're going to put our money and resources behind getting your course up to snuff, so that Augusta has, a high caliber course for the public too. So we could go all day in this, though. Point being, with all the stereotypes around the game of golf, it does generate some good. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the estimates out there suggest that it generates more for philanthropy than all the other pro sports combined, which is mind blowing.
I believe it. No, I believe it. So just because it's been so forward, front forward. But
back to you in the studio.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. Let's hear from our partners over at Underdog Fantasy. Use the discount code DIVPIV. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. We're going to hear from them real fast. And then when we come back, we're going to get to our key stats. We're going to get to the Travelers Championship. We're going to get to our picks to get you that money. And we'll find out just how much Bud beat me by this week at the US Open.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is best ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Gingerbread sent you with that code DivPiv, DIVPIV. Let's get into the Travelers Championship because, as you said, what was that? What'd you say? You're very close to the camera, dude. Oh no. Okay, he's not talking. He doesn't hear me. I don't know what. Anyways, let's get into our picks and our stats this week for the Travelers Championship. Look, so last week at the U.S. Open, we lost Bud for a second. We'll get him back here. But Bud did sneak out the win on me. He had a 5-6 lineup. I had a 4-6 lineup. It was one of my worst weekends as far as DraftKings go in recent weeks. My streak of cashing broke, unfortunately, but that's okay because I did have got some little solace in the fact that I had Wyndham Clark at the top of my model last week. So if you were listening and you listened to the show, you had you played our picks. Wyndham Clark was at the top of the model. So the first time I think the model nailed the winner as number one. We've had the winners be in the top 10, top 5 before, but I think that's the first time the winner's been number one.
We've been flirting with success the last couple of weeks, and I mean I had Rory I had Rory number one in my model. So I mean, we were which is ironic because I beat you last week, even though you had the winner in your.
Well, and that's what saved me because you ended up only beating me by 31, even though you had an extra player for the last 2 days. So you beat me by 31
close
points.
To being a spanking.
Big, yeah, because it was after the first day, it was shaping up to be a spanking because my first day was not good. But Wyndham Clark saved it for me.
Travelers, I got to say, what were you more disappointed in? The Rory near miss or the Ricky implosion?
The Ricky implosion, because it's as bad as this is going to sound to say, I've gotten used to the Rory near miss.
I figured I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, I've gotten used to the Rory near miss at this point. It sounds awful to say, but it just keeps happening to him. Ricky, it felt because of where he's been the last couple of years in the run he's been on this year of getting back to stardom. It felt like it was his week. It like I think everybody was feeling it. Everybody was cheering for him, and then for him to just drop the way he did, that was unfortunate. So that was more shocking. That was more of an emotional spot to be like, well, damn it, like it didn't happen. But and not to take anything away from Wyndham Clark, because I think Wyndham Clark played his ass off. He deserved it. I love the story about him and his mom, and then Ricky coming up to him after the round saying, if your mom was here, she'd be so proud of you. Like Ricky, the forever professional and just great guy. So you gotta love that. And look, Wyndham Clark is no schlub here. Oh, schlub. That's the word, schlub. He's no. I remember I had friends texting me in a group chat being like, "This Wyndham Clark guy, no name," and I was like, a lot of guys were on him. He's made 25 or 28 cuts this year. Like the guy's been having a fantastic year.
People were on him. Not a lot of people outside of our nerddom know about Wyndham Clark. They do now.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. But again, he could also be, what did I say earlier? Webb Simpson, Jason Duffner, Lucas Glover won the US
don't know,
Open.
but you know what? But what it is,
truth gun to your head. I could give you 10. I could flash 10 cards in front of you. You couldn't pick Lucas Glover out. Neither could I. And I mean, like I
actually can, because I remember following Lucas Glover quite a bit when he was on his run, so I could pick him out of the lineup.
Point being, oh God, what did I text you at the beginning of the week? Steve Jones, 1996.
Oh yes.
I was like,
which actually took me a second to even realize why you were texting me that, because I was like, what?
And I realized that's what I hope doesn't happen to Wyndham Clark, though. Now the difference being Steve Jones at that point was a little bit of a journeyman. Wyndham Clark is still really young in his career.
I was gonna say he's young, and he's been a name that's been slowly up and coming for the last couple of years. As far, at least in the DFS community, like he's been a name that's been.
It's consistent as shit in DFS, but that's my point. Exactly. Is he's known to us. Everybody else, I mean, Wyndham Clark was not as many places as Ricky Fowler would have been in the last 48 hours.
Sure.
If he had
No.
gone, you know what I'm saying? But so they had their storylines lined up, and once it kind of down, I'm stealing this from DP. But once they started coming down the back nine, you could feel how they were unpacking Wyndham Clark's stories a little bit more. I did see earlier in the week the story about him ordering a putter that was identical to Ricky Fowler's too. So if you didn't know that, the story basically is they were working on, they both went to Oklahoma State, and Wyndham Clark dropped out when his mom died, and then he ended up going back to Oregon. Then he, on and on, and he wins the U.S. Open. Ricky Fowler, if you don't know, wears that orange on Sunday for Oklahoma State, and that's kind of his homage to the Cowboys. And he stays connected to the program. He talks to the players. He goes back. Oklahoma State is like, I'm not going to say Alabama because close to like the Alabama of.
But when it comes to golf schools, it's up there.
They're one of the perennial favorites, and they just.
And to that matter, so is Oklahoma too. They're both big golf schools. Yeah.
But Victor Hovland's another Cowboy. So, anyways. Ricky and Wyndham are working on their putting, and Wyndham's trying to figure some stuff out, and he takes a couple strokes with one of Ricky's putters. Now, these putters that these guys use are not like the ones you and I are pulling off the rack. I don't care if you are going for the $600, Scotty Cameron.
Yeah, it don't matter. It still
doesn't matter. These are customized for these guys. Every piece of equipment they use is specific to them.
The angle of the shaft makes sense. The arch of their back.
So for a player to say, "I want that," I want that exact specific setup. It's not unheard of, but it is poetic when they end up in the final group together on Sunday for a major, and then the other guy wins. Anyway, but I bring that up because I do like Ricky this week. You said it. He's trending, and maybe he's just maybe there is a difference between winning and winning a major. And Ricky has won on big courses and big stages with Quail Hollow.
Doesn't have that major yet.
Waste Management, the Players. He doesn't have that major yet. He's got the international exposure. I think this was big for him in the Ryder Cup bid, maybe.
Oh, 100%. I think he's a lock in the Ryder Cup now.
He's got to be. He's great. He's first team all locker room. He's the next kind of, I would say, Phil, or maybe even like a Kiz. I want more Kiz just for his match play and his.
I know he's a different animal in that setting.
But these Ryder Cup courses get they get stretched out for the big boys to put on a show. Anyways, I like Ricky this week because maybe he still is peaking, and so maybe we come to another elevated event and he's still riding. That guy.
So here's the thing with Ricky. He's got 3 straight top 10 finishes. So 100% ride him right now. He's finishes number 7 in my model this week.
Ricky, ride.
And
so let's talk about models real quick.
So here's the thing. Not only is we'll get to the full model, but just because you brought up Ricky, not only is Ricky Fowler number 7 in my model this week. He's also, because of the collapse he had, unfortunately, this past weekend, he's a little underpriced considering how well he's played. He's only 9,100.
That's my point.
And because of that, he's only around 10, 11% owned. Ricky Fowler is a smash play for me this week. It's just a no-brainer.
Is Ricky Fowler bringing the bang for you this week?
I want him to bring the bang to me so bad this week.
Oh God, don't talk like that ever again.
I do.
Okay, so I do like a lot of value plays this week.
Yes,
and
my model spit out a ton of value this week.
You can go duds and studs. You can take something from the top of the menu, which I might. But what is your?
I'll even tease this right now. We'll get to it later. But my model,
like 30 seconds.
My model at number 21 has spit out a guy who was $6,000 on DK and 0% owned at number 21. That's what my model spit out this week. So there's a ton of value this week. We'll get to that later in the show.
Screaming at the rain. Talk to me, Goose. What are your key 3?
Yeah, so my key 5. Your key 3, my key 5. So once again, it is really key 3 because at this point, strokes gained, putting, strokes gained approach, they're just gimmies. So they're never changing. So I guess it is key 3. The other key 3 for me outside of those two is going to be I want birdies are better this week. This is a week where I need guys who are going to be able to score. Because as Ram alluded to, I don't think there's going to be a ton to go around. I want guys who can score when they need to. So birdies are better is a big one for me this week, as well as proximity 150 to 175 for approach shots. And then just about damn near half the course is our par 4s between 400 and 450 yards, which makes sense considering you said it's about 6,800 roughly total course length here. So par 4s 400 to 450 is my 5th stat this week. So that's putting, that's approach, that's birdies are better, 150 to 175, and then 400 to 450. What do you got for me?
So I've strayed from my key 3 for majors. For I've gone 4 a couple times, but I'm ratcheting it back to 3 because I'm remembering the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. We do have this season long competition going that is pretty well, pretty
we're pretty tight.
We're still pretty close. And there's
after this week, I bet you we're probably. I haven't done the math yet, but I would say we're probably within like 50 points of each other.
Oh, easily, because it wasn't that big of a margin to begin with, and I think I only beat you by like 30. This week. Yeah. So, it's definitely under 50, I think. And, and I do want to see, because I start laughing and smiling when I hear you talking about par 4s, 400 to 450 when in reality, this week is another balanced golf course where they do have a couple of par 3s over 200, a couple of par 3s that are in the mid hundreds, the aughts. But I like what you said with birdies are better. That's my 3rd, because I have strokes gained ball striking, because ball striking takes approach and off the tee, which I think if approach is the best singular variable that you can use to determine a player and how they're playing, then why not take a variable or a stat that incorporates that into it and take it off the tee. So overall ball striking and ball strikers course, we talked about Bobby Weed, we talked about Pete Dye, how this course is set up, and those are shot makers. You're not just going to bomb it, find it.
Yeah. Not this week.
Not this week. That ain't going to happen. But so I got ball striking, strokes gained putting, and birdies are better, because this course has yielded a 58. Mr. Jim Furyk shot 58 on this course. There has been several flirtations with 60s and 59s. So you get it going, you hit some good shots, and you're rolling the rock. You can score because it's not long. It's just going to depend on the weather and the setup. And like you said, with John Rahm kind of cryptically saying, I would be honored to win a tournament over par, that means it was a true test of golf or whatever. It makes me wonder if he was still referencing the US Open and not this week, because I don't see the Travelers. I don't see the Travelers producing a ton of punishing scores. But then again, if you give these guys enough time to set these courses up, they can tweak them out. That bluegrass rough is no joke. And we saw what the rough can do last week at the LA Open, or at the LA Open. It was the LA Open.
It was basically, yeah.
But
also just coming off of a major, I would be curious if I had the time to put the research in coming off the week after a major, if there's a downtick in scores, just because of the toll it takes on the guys having just played in that. I'd be curious to see if there's a correlation there. I just haven't had the time to do that research myself to see if that's makes sense or not.
Well, for a lot of us, this is gonna be the last time we see these guys until the Scottish Open
there's gonna be a little bit of a break here. We're gonna have some pivot episodes.
So you might get somebody rising up, but let's talk about it real quick. Let's get through them. And and I actually do have somebody highlighted in the 10K range, because at 10% and as hot as he is, even at 10-9, Rory McIlroy it hits for me. He's second in my model. Patrick Cantlay, I'm not paying 10 or 10. Well, 10 to Patrick Cantlay. Oh, he's 17% ownership. That's what I saw, and I'm like, even though this course set perfectly for him. God, look at that hairline, Jesus. But Xander Schauffele, again, he came out the gates hot at the U.S. Open.
I like Xander this week.
He could hit. John Rahm's always a good bet. He's won like 4
So here's the thing. You mentioned Rory at 10-9. I'm actually skipping over Rory this week, and I'm going right to John Rahm at 10-8 in this range for the same projected ownership for $100 less. But John Rahm comes out number 5 in my model this week.
You made me a believer.
Yeah, and and this isn't anything against Rory. I just, for the $100 less, the difference in ranking John Rahm's number 5 in my model, Rory's number 24. That's a big enough difference for me for that little bit of price for me to drop down to Rahm.
Well, see, and I'm probably going to be building from the ground up this week, anyways. I'm going to try to I'm going to literally go down low and see if I can find a couple 3 at the 70 or maybe even 6, but mostly 7K range to set myself up, and I might need that $100 buffer.
With the value available
this week, pointed that out.
With the value available this week, you could have a 10 and a high 9 or 2 10s. It could happen this week. And
we already said that we both like Ricky at 91. So in the 10K 100%. Range, you like John Rahm, I like Rory McIlroy, but you've turned me into a Rombo.
And to your point, I do like Xander as well. Xander's number 2 in my model, but for 2% less projected ownership, I'd rather have Rahm for 3 spots worse in my model.
That's fair.
And just $400 more.
Is this really?
What about the 9K range? Because the 9K range is interesting because we've already said we've beaten Ricky as a dead horse here, so we like Ricky 9100
sub 10%. I don't think there's a hangover there. I like Tony Finau. I like Tony Finau at 8%.
So I like his ownership. I'm just not loving his game right now. His putting's been rough right now. That's what I'm a little off on. But that is the one stat that someone can turn around week to week from last in the field to first in the field. You just don't know.
Also, could be some familiarity, but I definitely think. I mean, put a stake on Ricky and see what he's doing. Max Homa, I'm just skipping right down into it.
He's
range.
Pissing me off recently.
Yeah, I might give him some.
He really is. I am such a Max Homa fan, but he has just been pissing me off.
I might give him some run this week just because the bounce back factor. Also, did you see him and JT drinking rosé going Instagram? He nailed it though. Wyndham Clark at 10 under is going to win this.
So here's the thing. I'm glad you brought up Wyndham Clark again because we have this thing on the show where we don't play the guy who won the week before, and I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah, I'm staying away from it.
And so I am too. I'm not going to play him, but it doesn't change the fact that Wyndham Clark has now turned out as number 1 in my model again this week.
Has he really? He's 10th in my model.
Which is tempting because he's 9,200 and he's 4.9% projected ownership right now. So it is so tempting to just play him to make the cut. But that's the thing. At 9,200, he's now – last week he was 70 – I think he was 7,500 last week at the U.S. Open. And now just because he won, he's shot up to 92. So –
just on the U.S. Open, you think you're hot shit?
Look, if he was at this ownership at say like 8,500, even 8,500, and was still ranked at number 1, then I might actually play him. Not thinking he would win, but I would play him to make the cut and still put up a good DFS score because he's ranking out so well and he's just on a heater right now. But 9,200 is just too much. Like, because at 9,200, you need someone who's going to finish top 10. If you're really looking to make money, so I can't bring myself to play him coming off his win this week. It's just too much of an emotional high. And
I want to play Tommy Fleetwood, but not at 15%. And he's too
So
streaky.
Tommy Fleetwood quietly came to a T5 finish this past week. I feel like it
wasn't quiet. He shot another 63 on Sunday.
I know that, but I felt like every time I turned on the TV and watched the coverage, I felt like he was going in the opposite direction. So that was probably just the timing of me watching it. But at 9,300 at around 16% ownership, like that's the part that there's better value in that 9K range that I'd rather play. Like,
so where do you see your value in the 9K?
At 99?
You like Victor at 99?
I do like Victor at 99.
He's another one that he won the Memorial, and then he was up and out and about at the U.S. Open.
He's got 4 straight top 20 finishes, including that win at the Memorial, and before that, the Wells Fargo, he had T43.
I don't hate Matthew Fitzpatrick at 9,000 either. 7% ownership, and he, I feel like he isn't it. I don't know why I overlook it. And I think it's because I'm in love with Ricky at 91, and you like.
I know that is the thing. It's just Ricky,
and I like Tony Finau at 97. Anyways, 8K range. Let's get through it. I already tipped my hand that I like Max Homa at 8,900 because really I see that as a 9K in my brain. And I've talked about it. There's a name that I say all the damn time, and he's 17th in my model, Mr. Shane Lowry, 6%. Come on down.
You this year
love.
So Shane Lowry has become like between Shane Lowry and David Lipsky, like you have yourself a nice little.
I've always had a little thing for Lipsky and Rye ever since I saw those boys at the Zurich and they did me well. I've always given them. I actually thought about Lipsky this week, but God, he's been way too shitty and just streaky for me to put any kind of
how much did you say Shane Lowry was worth? Why don't I see him? Where is 8,200?
Oh, there he is, 8,200. Shane Lowry, 8,200, 6% ownership.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind that play. That's great. That's great ownership leverage. Like I don't mind that for that price.
I've said it this year. If there's a couple of players that if they pop in my model, Mr. M and Mr. Kim and Mr. Sungjae M at 8,700, he's 9th in my model, 5th, 5% ownership. That's a lot of leverage, and I'm going to trust my numbers one more time. And I'll probably actually give him more love than I give Max Homa. But Max Homa just pops out because he's 8th in my model and 5% ownership. I could also see him go 0-2 barbecue because mentally he's going, that was embarrassing. I just want to get to the next major.
And that's my thing against Sung J M is that like I don't love Sung J M's game right now. I
Love
get what
him.
you're saying, but his last 4 appearances, 3 missed cuts and a T41 at the Memorial.
He's due.
Sure, you can look at that. You can. How many people said that about Ricky 3 years ago, and then got burnt? You know, like so. I'm not there for Sung J this week, but you know who I am here in the AK.
I'm there for my model.
I don't love.
I'm doing it for the model.
Okay, so fine. We'll use the model. My model does not love the 8K range this week. The only guy in the 8K range that my model likes this week is Sahith Theegala at 8,300 and around 11% ownership. So he hasn't been burning up the leaderboards, but he's quietly made at least 5 straight cuts. As far as this,
he's a safe bet to make a cut. I mean,
if
that's all you're looking for out of him.
And he finished T2 here last year. Now remember, he finished T2 here last year, coming off a near miss at the U.S. Open last year. Like the schedule hasn't changed. This followed the U.S. Open last year too.
PGA.
What was that?
PGA.
Oh, that was at the P. You're right. You know what? I apologize. Thank you for correcting me. He had the near miss at the PGA. I apologize.
Actually, right. I could have let that float out there.
No,
but the integrity
of the show comes first. You're right. But still, Sahith Theegala ranks out. He ranks out 11th in my model this week. He's 8,300 and around 12% ownership. He's made 26 out of 28 cuts, which I don't think we've really realized this year.
Oh, I realized it. He's easy money for a cut maker. That ownership is going to go up because, as you pointed out, runner up last year, he's got a little bit of swagger to him now. He's still a humble guy, but I mean, the guy can play.
I'm not sure that ownership is going to go up too much because what I'm seeing a lot of in the trends here is for just within $500 less than him, we're seeing ownership going to Tom Kim around 13-14%. We're seeing
Tom
ownership
Kim is hot.
So we're seeing ownership going to Siwoo Kim at 8,000 at around 13-14%. And the biggest one we're seeing ownership going to within $500 at 7,800 is Russell Henry, who's almost 19% projected ownership this week. So it feels like we're going to be able to get Sahith Theegala at an ownership value this week. And I love the way he rates out at this course.
Fake news. That's not going to happen. All right, 7K. There's a lot of value down there. And I'm big on the top of the 7K range because I saw a lot of green in the ownership. I mean, it's high green, but it's for names that again, Keegan Bradley pops 20th my model. Keegan Bradley, and it starts with a 7, and we're in New England. Duh, market 8, dude.
That's you know what? That's a fantastic point. I'm glad you said that.
Adam Scott at 7,900. Adam Scott is better than 7,900, even in an elevated event. So unless they know something I don't know, or there's some sort of like course history, Adam Scott. 18th in my model, Corey Connors 14th in my model, and Denny McCarthy 15th in my model. Corey Connors 7,700. Corey Connors hits it so well. This is I said ball strike. I know, but I'm a little raw on Corey Connors after last week. If Corey Connors allows me to get Rory or John Rahm then I'll swallow Corey Connors, or I'll drop down and get me some Denny McCarthy because
I was going to say because
nobody puts better than Denny McCarthy.
I'm glad you said Denny McCarthy because Denny McCarthy is exactly who I would.
Do we agree on Denny McCarthy
over Connors? Ring the bell for Denny McCarthy because Denny McCarthy's number 9 in my model. He's 7,600 and he's under 10% projected ownership. And like you just alluded to, he's the number 1 putter in this field over the last 24 rounds. So he's also top 5 in par 4s, 400 to 450, and he had a T20 last week and a second place finish at the Memorial.
I like Eric Cole at 7,300 because he has also been hot right now, and he's 11th in my model.
Stop reading my stars.
Well, let's be honest. We have the same base ingredients. You just ruined the recipe with all your extra par 4, 450 shit. And then just because I talk about strokes gained home life, this guy just turned pro, so none of his data is going to make him rank out very high.
I know. I think I know who you're going to say.
Yeah.
I think I know who you're going to.
Who?
No, it's is it Ekrowat who was just in the U.S. Open this past week?
No, Sam Bennett.
Sam Bennett. Yes,
won the U.S. Amateur, showed out at the Masters,
U.S. Open showing.
Turned pro at the and goes to the Memorial and does well. Makes a name for himself. He's up there going into the weekend at the U.S. Open. The kid's going to break through sooner than later. There was a few years back, I think people might remember, where it was when Colin Morikawa got his win, Matt Wolff got his win, Victor Hovland got this class of guys all came out. Sam Bennett is the next in that class. I think like in the next year, we're going to see Gordon Sargent. You saw was the low am. He's going to go pro here soon, and he's going to win right out the gates. These are those kind of pro ready amateurs. Long gone are the days of, Jack Nicklaus. Well, even he won as a young buck, but guys coming out on tour and it takes them, 3-4 years of getting that scar tissue. These guys are getting that scar tissue at the AJGA level, at the college level. And so they come out there kind of not battle tested, but because of the elite level of training that they're receiving at such a young age, it's kind of like quarterbacks in the NFL.
They're just
no longer do you have to sit there for 2 or 3 seasons to get a feel for it. They're ready.
So
Sam Bennett.
Because we only have a couple minutes left, I do want to get to some guys in the 6K range. I'm going to rattle off some names I like in the 7K range that you didn't touch on already. And we'll start with Emiliano Grillo I like this week.
I have him highlighted. I just skipped over that. Sorry, we agree there too.
Yeah, so I have him. I also really like Patrick Rogers this week. Great ownership play if you're looking for some leverage there. Christian Bezuidenhout. Again, he's been a fan favorite of the show
He's your
year.
Shane Lowry. Don't fan
He's my Shane Lowry. Yep.
He's your Shane Lowry.
100%. Taylor Moore I like as well. Andrew Putnam I like. Sepp Straka, Adam Schenk I like. And that's the 7K range for me right there. Those are the guys I just want to make sure we said their names on the air.
So we can then, I want to say 30, I want to say 30 or 40 names so that when one of them hits, I have one player. I have one player in the 6K range highlighted, and I'm super curious to see who you have from 6K because you hinted at some value that you like, and I want to see if my one person ends up on your list.
All right. So what you want me to? Okay. So because I have just a couple of guys highlighted in my 6K range. I think it's 4. So I got Mark Hubbard at 6,900, who's actually pretty high.
Everybody loves him.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm tempted to not play him because his ownership is around 14% at 6,900. That's just
too much. It's one of those things like the odds makers know something we don't.
Yeah, but he has been playing good golf, so I get it. I also like Ben Martin at 6,700, under 5% ownership. I will take that. Look. I like Ches Reavie again. I hate that I've said his name multiple times this year.
He's your broke back.
But I like Ches Reavie again, mainly because of his course history here. He's made the cut 4 straight years here. And he finished T25 at the RBC Canadian, T50. He's made 4 straight cuts. Ranks out 38th in my model, so around 10% ownership at 6,700. I don't mind Ches Reavie at all. And then I dropped down to, I think the only other guy I have in my model, this is the guy I alluded to earlier. Hear me out. All right. I don't know what any of these freaking tournaments he's been in recently are from their names other than the Puerto Rico. But his recent results are the Puerto Rico, he missed the cup. And then the Pinnacle Bank, he finished 14th. The Utah, he finished T17th. The Price Cutler, he finished T19th. At $6,000, 0% ownership, a guy who has played here before, but not since 2018 when he finished T42. In 2017, he finished T26th. Brett Stagmeyer. If you are looking for an absolute shot in the dark to hopefully make the cut, just so that if nothing else, you can get 5 other guys who do make the cut. Why not take a shot on Brett Stagmeyer at the lowest possible price you can get somebody at?
You could do that, or you could pay $6,900 for Michael Kim, somebody who plays actual golf for a living.
No,
I'm just kidding. Those tournaments you were mentioning, those are Corn Ferry events. He's an up and comer. You never know.
I know he is. I
literally just got done doing a rant about how these guys are battle tested and hardened when they come out.
Yep.
Although there's a difference between clawing up the Corn Ferry and winning the USAM and kind of being there's players that get drafted in the first round, and there's players who are signed to off-season contracts.
So Michael Kim's the guy you were alluding to at the beginning of this segment here of the 6K range, and if he is, I get it, because Michael Kim does rank out 23rd in my model as well. So I 100% get it. And at 4% ownership, I very well be playing myself some Michael Kim as well.
I think Michael Kim and Sam Bennett are going to be my kind of gut plays to allow me to spend some money up top.
I like it. It, dude.
Good.
Look, I think we gave you guys enough Our
If you
goal
didn't
is to
find
give
gold-
you half
if you
the
didn't
field
get
so
some
we can
gold
claim
there.
so we can claim victory no matter what. That's our that's our goal here on Divots and Pivots. No, I'm kidding. We want to give you guys some quality picks. I think we did that as always. But look, catch us next week every Tuesday at 8:00 here on Fantasy Sports Corporation. We'll have you covered for recapping the Travelers Insurance, and then we'll get ready for what is our short little slow time here in the summer leading up to the Open
The
Championship.
sleepy Midwestern swing.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of it's probably the biggest downturn, but you know what? We've been on a full speed runaway trains for the last couple months here. So tune in every Tuesday, 8:00 Fantasy Sports Corporation. Check us out on Twitter at Divots and Pivots. Check out Bud at this Buds for you
Eric
for spelled with an
Cole.
E.
Did we say Eric Cole?
We did say Eric Cole. You
Okay,
did.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's the
Back
one
to you.
that I said where you're cheating because we have them both.
Back to you in the studio.
We both have them. Check me out at Real Mr. Mallard. I'm Andrew LeDuc, Mr. Mallard. Bud Copeland to my right. We will see you next week here on Divots and Pivots. We love you all. Good luck this week.